Welcome to the official catch-up. Today I've got Eddie Martin, Dunfermline Athletic Mental Health Ambassador and Mental Health First Aid Instructor. How are you doing, Eddie?
Yeah, very well. Great to be on your show. Thanks very much.
No, you're more than welcome. Obviously, it's one of the things that we've obviously been promoting on the catch-up, as well as other faith-based organisations over the last week. Obviously, with the Suicide Prevention Week that you kind of got us involved in, which we're obviously grateful for.
Yeah, and to have your support has been great, and for you to put in your tweets and retweets, and also publicising the video from the Faith, Health and Social Care campaign is great, is brilliant. It's all about getting that positive message out of hope and support.
You're working with Dunfermline Athletic. Where did your sort of passion come from in terms of either football or mental health in general?
Well, it's quite a long story. I'm actually quite lucky. Growing up in a mining village in High Valleyfield in Fife, I was quite lucky to have two grandparents who were Dunfermline fans, and that travelled through into my own parents and my mum's dad as well. So I was brought up as a Dunfermline fan, and right now I'm a season ticket holder at East End Park. We've got strong connections with the football club as well. Just after the war, my gran, she was finding times quite tough, and she had a couple of spare rooms in her house in Dunfermline where she stayed, and she used to let her rooms out to the football club when any players or stuff like that were needing digs. So we've got that wee bit history there as well. So it's been great. I first of all got involved in Dunfermline when they were going through the administration. So I ended up being a fundraiser for Pars United. I was just a very small part in this part of Pars United to help raise money for Dunfermline, for it to be a fan-owned club as what it is just now. And through that, I got involved in the Supporters Council, where I've chaired meetings at Supporters Council meetings that have been held at Dunfermline, East End Park. Also been secretary, and it's like everything else. If you volunteer for something, you'll get the dog's bodies work to do as well. So it's no problem. But just to give you a wee bit of background, there was a Supporters Council meeting in September in 2016, and I spoke at that, and it was regarding mental health in football and mental health in sport, but also how we could actually try and campaign and support mental health. So it was after the Supporters Council meeting that we had a meeting with Ross MacArthur and Michael Milosevic, who was the general manager at the time at East End Park. And what we were showing is that it was very important to have mental health first aiders within the football club. So during that meeting, the people from the football club came on board, and it was Margaret Ross. She became the mental health first aider for the football club. Sadly, Margaret passed away. And after that, one of the directors, the supporters liaison officer, Drew Main, he is now the mental health first aider for the football club, along with the club chaplain, Ray Mackenzie, and also myself, our first aiders. So what we're doing is we're trying to promote mental health within the football club. So that's exactly where we are and the background of it.
Brilliant, Eddie. And it always sort of interests me for professional athletes, in particular footballers, in terms of their mental health. You obviously, the football sort of climate, obviously we've got social media, we've got unhappy fans. The negative side is obviously maybe a player hasn't played well. Maybe they're getting a wee bit of abuse either at the game or, well, not at the moment, obviously, but is that difficult? Is that one of these sort of things that's only subjected to maybe athletes or people that you might see on the television, I guess?
Well, it's quite hard to explain, but a couple of years ago, I wouldn't say we had a problem at Dunfermline, but we did have a relatively young team, and they were coming through, and there was a time that the chairman had to come out and make a statement to the fans, just to say, have some patience and let the players develop. The results were going our way, and some of the performances, maybe the players could have been playing better, but the important fact was that there was a lot of fans who were getting on the backs of the players. And because they're not involved in big massive crowds or anything like that, the shouts from the I'm going to say the terracing, but the shouts from the stands, they were audible and they could be heard, and that was affecting the young players, and without any shadow of a doubt, it was affecting the players' mental health as well. So I think that the supporters have a role to play. It's great. I've been a football fan all my life, and I know that you go there, you pay your money, and you go to watch the game. But it doesn't give you a right to, I wouldn't say chastise players, but there's a certain code of conduct that supporters have to be aware of. It's very similar. If you were at your work and then you were having a bad day, or if something doesn't go on right, you wouldn't feel great if there was a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand people standing behind you and shouting dogs abuse at you because you were having that bad day. So I think that brings into a wee bit of perspective.
Yeah, and it's one of these things that people may not consider. Certainly, I mean, look, I'm a Tottenham fan, and I'm quite vocal about certain things. If the team haven't played well, but I think it's different at the ground. It's more sort of personal, especially if the players can hear it. I mean, I watched. I don't know if you've been watching the All or Nothing Tottenham series on Amazon. I thought it was interesting with the sort of COVID episode that Jose Mourinho actually came out and he spoke about mental health. He said, this is going to be. I'm not worried about my physical health. I'm worried about my mental health, not being able to get out the house, and obviously it's a strange times for everyone, Eddie, with COVID and everything that's going on. How difficult it is to assess people's mental health if maybe people have lost their jobs and people, obviously it's just a terrible time for everyone out with the norm, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important that everybody has to realise and everybody understands that everybody has mental health. No one doesn't have mental health, but it's getting it's those words, mental health, and it's understanding what that actually means. Because people can have good mental health, people can have poor mental health at the same time, and that's what the understanding is. And when you're talking about going through COVID, if you take, you don't have to be a professional football player or an amateur football player. I think that COVID everybody, especially during lockdown, and that must have been really, really stressful, and it must have been a really worrying time. And that's one of the things where people have to realise that it is okay not to feel normal, because you're not living in a normal situation.
Yeah.
And people do become anxious, and then anxiety levels in everyone will raise because everybody has anxiety as well. There is a difference between having anxiety and then having an anxiety disorder. So it's all about understanding that it's okay to feel bored, it's okay to feel frustrated, and how you can do things, and then that's when the mind starts racing. That's when the mind starts thinking about what's going to happen in the future. And it's easy to overthink things about your job, about things that's going to happen. But even the simple things like social interaction. When you're in lockdown, you're allowed to go out and you're allowed to go for a walk for some exercise, but you're not allowed to go and see your mates or anything like that. You're not allowed to go out or anything. So that's when I think social media and like Zoom calls and quizzes and stuff like that'll play a major part of it as well. But people's sleep patterns and everything that would be all disturbed. So it was a very, very troubling time for a lot of people, I think.
Where does that sort of bring in your role of mental health first aid instructor? Are you advising clubs? Have you been advising obviously Dunfermline Athletic? I noticed you've obviously been doing a few sort of sessions where I think it was Dunfermline ladies yesterday. I think I noticed that.
Well, I just posted that up yesterday on the Twitter page. That was pre-COVID. We did that, but we also had sessions with Dunfermline ladies pre-COVID, but also during COVID we had 2 sessions. We did it on Zoom with Inverkeith and Swifts, and what we did was we did the first team one night, and then we did I think it was under-20s the second night. And both nights I just designed and compiled a wee course for them, just to let them understand how they're feeling and why they're feeling like this. And it was also great to get that interaction from them and to get the questions from them as well. The role of a mental health first aider and the role of a mental health first aider, he's there to listen, and he's trained what professional advice can be given for the person to take that. So what I mean by that is a mental health first aider is not a doctor, he's not a clinician, he's not a psychiatrist or anything like that. He's there in the role to signpost the people to relevant professional help that they need, determine on the symptoms that they're having. So it's easy to describe it like how you get physical first aiders.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got a sore leg or you've maybe hurt yourself, then they're not there. They're not the doctors, and they're not there to help you. What they can do is they'll patch you up and then take you or put you to the relevant medical help that you need.
Yeah.
It's a similar way to being a mental health first aider as well, where you are trained and you know what to do when someone's having a problem or a crisis, and then you're able to signpost them to the relevant professional help.
How do you? What are the ways that we can sort of recognise if someone's maybe struggling? I know not a lot of people are as open as others when it comes to sort of mental health. How would you sort of look for that if you're dealing with maybe a group of footballers or otherwise?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. It doesn't have to be a professional football player, but there could be a change in behaviour. Someone who's quite outgoing, someone who's quite confident, and they suddenly become a wee bit quieter. They're maybe a wee bit shyer. The other things could be a change in appearance, because someone's maybe likes to take self-care and they take pride in their grooming and stuff like that. And then if you notice that things are maybe going quite right, and then it could be confidence. They could have a lack of confidence that wasn't there before, and it's usually if they're not getting involved, they're not being inclusive. So if they start to withdraw, and they're finding that they just want to be themselves, and then you can notice that mood changes as well. Mood changes is a good thing to look at if you notice that things are mentally right.
As we mentioned earlier about the suicide prevention, it's obviously a massive thing, in Scotland, especially from the ages of the late 20s to sort of up to 40 for men. Does that really put us sort of more at risk?
Looking at the stats, I think that is one of the higher risk factors is that age group. Without any shadow of a doubt, there's men are at risk at that age group 3 times more than what women are. And there is a lot of talk about why is that? Why is it? And some people are of the frame of mind that men don't want to open up. They don't want to talk. Whereas, and it's an analogy that I use in one of my courses, but I think about if my wife's with her friend and they're over having a glass of wine, there's absolutely no way at all that you're going to get in between that conversation that they're going to have. They're just talk and talk and talk. But with men, it's different. I've noticed that at my own workplace, whereas it is a male-dominated industrial environment that I work in, and from that, what you'll get is you'll maybe get some guys around the table and they'll be reading their papers first thing in the morning, maybe a Monday morning after a weekend, and what they'll say, they'll say, oh, that was never a goal, that was offside, oh, that was never a penalty, no danger was a penalty, or it could be, did you back that horse I told you, that favourite one, that horse, that race, did you back it? Whereas the guy will turn into his mate and say, you know something, I've been feeling absolutely terrible for the last 4 weeks, I've got a big massive cloud hanging over the top of me, and I just can't get rid of it. What do you think? How can you help? I don't actually think that conversation would take place. It might do, but I think it would be a very rare conversation. Yeah,
and I agree, Eddie. And I think it's one of the reasons, obviously, that I'm so glad health has been more advertised because it's something that feels like it's just started to exist. If that makes sense, certainly from my point of view. I mean, when I was 16, 17, you never really heard much about mental health, and then it's like you were saying about guys, you don't really hear that conversation from males, like, oh, I'm not feeling great or whatever. It's usually your friends or your family that have to ask you. I don't think there's many people that would open up like that to even their friends or family. I think it's maybe more difficult for men.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think now it's maybe coming more to the front, is because more people are talking about it.
Yeah,
I think that even now, mental health has a stigma to it, and it definitely has a a discrimination to it as well. So with that, people tend not to open up because one, they're feeling shame, they're feeling guilt. Why are they feeling like that? But there's also cultural reasons why they do that, because when you think about it, you're supposed to be big, you're supposed to be strong. Like in days going by, people would say, "Oh, just go in there, pull your socks up, and you'll get by it, you'll get by it." But now things are changing because people are being more open and people are talking about it. The barriers are getting broken down. So that's starting to remove the reality of the stigma that's there, and also the discrimination that's attached to it as well. And what I mean by it's attached to the discrimination, but in days gone by, people would have had mental health problems, and then when you talk about it, you could have like an aunt or someone, as you were saying, in your family, and they would say, "Oh, what's wrong with her or him?" You say, "Oh, it's okay. It's their nerves. It's okay. They're getting tablets for their nerves." So there's these things that there was a reluctance to talk about it. There was almost like a secret that it was kept indoors because there was that shame attached to it. But now, and I think what's really important is the fact that the royals have got involved in this, and through the work that Prince William and Prince Harry have been doing and still do. That takes a lot of it away, because if they come up with an initiative or they come up with a project that they want to get involved in, then the news, the mainstream media, they get involved in that and they promote it, and then that's slowly chipping away and breaking down the barriers and hopefully taking away the taboo that's attached to the subject as well.
Yeah. There's a phrase that I don't personally like, and I don't tend to use, but obviously the phrase "man up." Which is horrible, obviously. But I think for people that are maybe struggling, I think if you did, although it's hard, we've obviously discussed. It's rare them conversations. But to be honest, if a friend came to me and said they were struggling, I would have an ear for them, and I think that's what people maybe don't realise in that moment. I guess it's difficult for the person, but I think there was an old phrase like, "I'd rather you talk about it than have to go to your funeral." Obviously, that's a bit dark to say.
Yeah,
but,
no. Yeah, definitely. I'd rather listen to your story than hear your eulogy.
That's the one.
I've heard that as well, which I think is great. But that's the role of a mental health first aider as well. That they're there they'll have the knowledge and understanding of mental health issues before they turn into crises, and you have an ear. Someone who's going to listen, but most importantly, someone who's going to listen to you, but they're not going to judge you. So you're trained to be able to listen to someone non-judgmentally. So that way that you're listening to their story and you're there to try and help them. Some of the initiatives I've worked with Dunfermline have been really good and they've been really successful. I've been really passionate about raising mental health awareness, especially working within the local community. And the fan base of Dunfermline Athletic, because I think back to what I said about being involved with Dunfermline in the Parish United days and stuff like that. So Dunfermline as a club and as a brand had to reach out into the local community to try and preserve the club, but also make sure that the club was going to be able to move on and go on. So that was one of the things that through conversations I had with Dunfermline Athletic was, how can we pay back into the local community? And one of the things I thought about was through mental health awareness. So we decided we'd give it a shot and we would do some mental health awareness sessions and workshops. So over a 3-week period, we did 2-hour sessions. The first one was what is mental health and understanding what mental health is, and that led on to alcohol and drugs. The second session, it was about alcohol and drugs as well, tailing on from there, going on to anxiety, and then going on to depression. And what it was myself facilitating these meetings. And the third one was, and I thought it was really important, was to speak about suicide and make that, take that taboo away and let people know that, there is someone there that you can talk to. And the last part of that session was about recovery, which I thought was really good to come on from suicide. So from that, it was really good. The sessions were very well received. The feedback was great, and we got some really good involvement. So volunteers came forward, and from that we were able to put on a mental health first aid course for them. So out of the fan base in the local community, there's 8 qualified volunteers now that are mental health first aiders, which I think is brilliant. So that's just taking it forward, taking it another step. So that's where it really generated from. And then after that, through discussions, then I was appointed the mental health ambassador for Dunfermline Athletic.
Brilliant,
so that was really good. So my role working for Dunfermline Athletic as their mental health ambassador really on a voluntary basis. So anybody that's connected with Dunfermline Athletic will definitely know that everything that they do is they need a lot of volunteers to come forward, and there's some absolutely fantastic voluntary work getting done within the club. So I've done that. We've worked with the local community, but I've also had some training sessions with the under-20s and reserves. So we did a session with them. It was just a mental health awareness session, where we added on a wee bit about gambling, along with alcohol and drugs as well. So that course I did with them was absolutely brilliant. The engagement was great. Questions and the interactions from the young players were really good as well. And what really probably inspired me was the fact that they were really switched on. And some of the questions that they asked were great. They were brilliant. So that was some of the things that makes me really, really pleased about the way that the club are going, because the club are showing there that, one, they're being open to mental health within the football club, but the players are the football club's employees as well. So they've shown a duty of care to their employees, bringing that awareness training in. And also they're showing that they want to educate the players, so the education's coming there. And also there's an openness there that they can come and speak to the mental health first aiders. And speaking to the coaches, speaking to Greg Seals and Jason Dare as well when we were there, it was great. It was really good. They were really pleased about how it went ahead. And then we had plans in place to roll it out into the first team, but unfortunately the coronavirus that took hold. But it was really good to work with the under-20s as well, because you've got to be there and you've got to build up a level of trust as well. A lot of bridge building going on as well. So the first time I went down, Coach Greg Shields, he organised a wee darts match. So we're playing darts, and it was me and Greg and one of the guys from the college was there for the under-20s as well. So it was us three against another 3 nominated players that we were playing against. So we're playing killer. So Greg very kindly offered to make me a cup of tea. So he's away making tea, and the next thing, we were ahead at this time. And the next thing, the under-20s, the boys started coming on, and then they started winning. I was like, no, I thought that was great. They were great, they were winning. And then Greg came over with the tea, and he says, what's going on? I said, oh, it's they're in the lead now. He says, oh, no, they can't be in the lead, And the next thing, he looked down, I never noticed it, but they moved the mark, and they moved the mark forward.
Brilliant.
So then we had to move the mark back, but they were that way, that far away ahead, and they actually won. So I was actually going to come down the following Friday to do the awareness training session with them. But I didn't know this until I was about ready to leave, and then I got told there was a forfeit. So the forfeit was that I had to supply, because I was in the losing team, it was me, I had to supply the jelly beavies and the hobnobs for the tea tin. Aye. So I did bring them down, but Greg gave me trust the under-20s with him, so I think he handed them into Mo Hutton for him to keep in his coffee jar. So that was, but that's just some of the camaraderie and some of the good feeling that you've got to have, and then building up that trust. And then the feedback I got from the players after the under-20 session was really good, and I was really chuffed. And then we're just looking how we can progress this and how we can move forward and make it a better place. And you know, you never know, it could entice future players to come to the club if they've got that structure in place. So fingers crossed, everything seems to be going in the right direction now. The other part about it was what we were talking about was the suicide prevention campaign video. I was invited by the Fife Health and Social Care Partnership as my role as the Dunfermline Athletic Ambassador to see how we could maybe do something a bit different for this suicide prevention campaign. So through a lot of discussions, we decided that we'd do a video that would involve the 5 senior football teams. So it was my role in that working group to contact the football teams of Raith Rovers, East Fife, well, Dunfermline were already on board anyway, and Cowdenbeath, along with Kelty Hearts and Inverkeithing Swifts. And that's how the video was made. We were doing a script. The players or representatives from the football club, they would do the script, and the video had to be cut and edited, and then so it was great. And then through Dunfermline's contribution as well, we were able to tap into resources. So we got Jim Leishman to get involved as well with the Dean Fife Provost, but also Caroline Weir, the Scottish internationalist who plays for Manchester City. She was great doing the contribution to the video, and then after the video got put out, like yourselves, she went ahead and liked and retweeted it from her own Twitter feed as well. So we could have asked for any more better support than that.
Just going back to the team building or whatever, Eddie, are you any good at darts? I'm just interested to know, are you any good at darts?
I'm not really, no.
I was just wondering, because I don't know if you're aware, I don't know if this is an urban myth or it actually happened, but you know the Elizabethan? Down the road? I did hear someone was playing darts in there one time, and they actually were that bad they hit the pipes and it just flooded the whole pub. So I don't know if that's like an urban myth in Dunfermline or if it actually happened, but they did.
Well, all I'm going to say was I wasn't playing darts in Elizabethan that night. I was in another pub.
But no, not accusing you guys of that happening, but I did. I was in the Elizabethan, I think it was before lockdown actually, catching up with one of my mates, and I noticed they had redecorated, so it might be true on that account. But that's fantastic. Obviously, it's great. Obviously, getting to know the younger players, and as you said, building a trust. And I thought it was interesting you mentioned gambling. Sorry, because gambling seems to be a big one at the moment. I've seen a few players at sort of our level that have came out and said, "Look, I've got a problem," and they're quite open and honest about it in a wee sort of Twitter message. And is there? I take it there is a correlation between sort of addiction of alcohol, sort of dependencies to mental health.
Yeah. I would definitely say so. There definitely is, especially if you think about since we're talking about gambling, there is a definite link to that, and there is a problem, because if you think about it, you could do like an ATE address of the problem. And I got this from another mental health first aid instructor who works and does a lot of stuff for the SPFL Trust, Mark Fleming. And he was explaining it to me, and it was really, really good, because he said if you go for an ATE of addressing the problem, a football player, he loves the adrenaline, so he loves, they like to get the buzz. They find that they need that buzz. But it's all about finding something else. So if a football player has got a lot of spare time on his hands, I'm not saying that's the case now, because I know there was a lot of talk about that. Maybe go for one training session in the morning, and then you had the rest of the day yourself, and But to fix that alternative buzz, then the adrenaline, because they're competitive as well.
Yeah.
So if they think that they've placed a bet, what's a bet is it's just a chance. It's a chance of luck. So they've placed that. So they're going to get that adrenaline. They're getting that buzz of watching that. It doesn't have to be horse racing. It could be another football match. It could be anything. So they're going for that, and because they're looking for that adrenaline buzz, that's where the boredom would kick in. So gambling needs or requires some sort of an intelligence for to do that. So it's all about trying to fix that. And a football player they'll be determined. So because they've got that determination, they want to beat the bookie. They want to beat. It could be anything at all. So they've got that. But there's also other ways that they can. If they've got that disposable income and stuff like that, there's other ways that they can try and look forward to things. Whereas if they're maybe going to save up for a holiday, then you've got that buzz of looking forward to the holiday when it eventually comes, and you're putting that money aside rather than putting it to gambling.
I think it ties into the importance of routine. Am I right in saying that in regards to mental health? obviously good habits, good routine, rather than, as you said, potentially, obviously, like as you say, boredom with gambling and whatnot.
Yeah, it's all about, and it's all about trying to be positive, trying to be focused. Try and give yourself, even if you're coming through a mental health illness, you don't have to do everything all at once. Just give yourself small goals. One of the things about depression is, if someone's suffering from severe or clinical depression, you're not expecting them to just wake up one morning and then everything's going to be all right. It's definitely not. But as long as it's structured in a way whereas they can have small goals at a time. It's like getting up and just initially getting up out of your bed. That is a goal.
Yeah.
You can go back to your bed, but initially you got up, and then that's great. And then the second goal could be get up and have a shower, or get up and have your breakfast. And then the next day could be another goal, and then you're just following on from that. And that's giving yourself a focus and giving yourself something to aim for. And it's all about building up the small goals to try and get to the better place, really, where you are. But bearing in mind that you are in that severe state, you will be under a GP or a clinician as well. As I said before, not trying to that's not the role of a mental health first aid or anything like that. It's just to make sure that the people are getting the correct professional medical advice.
Yeah, and how does that all tie into MindFit, mental health training, that you're obviously a sort of provider of?
What's happened as well, I think, give a wee bit of background about myself. Through the coronavirus, through COVID-19, I'm the same as everybody else. I'm going through a redundancy situation, and I'll be made redundant from work this Friday, the 18th. So what I've tried to do, because I've worked with other football teams, and because I'm a mental health first aid instructor, the way it's gone on has been really good in the feedback we've been getting. So I've decided to try my luck and go alone and be a mental health trainer. So I've been working with that, and I'm quite lucky just now because I've not long got a working relationship with Dunfermline Swiss, where I'm going to be their mental health awareness trainer as well, which is great. And I'm looking forward to that and working with different roles, either with the coaches or with the players. There's other teams as well. I've shown an interest. Had plans in place with Pitliston in South Greaseberry Football Club, where I was going to go in there and I did a presentation to their committee. Everything was great. We'd actually decided, and we had some training confirmed that we were going to do training for the coaches. I've developed some training for the coaches around mental health awareness. So those plans were in place, and they were actually looking to go ahead and see if and go for the mental health first aiders within the football team as well. And as I was saying with Dunfermline ladies, we had a really good course for them, and you touched on that at the very beginning. But it just shows you how gender diverse it can be, because then you've got to try and see how everything's got to be bespoke, so one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
So when I was working with Dunfermline ladies, I worked with the child protection officer there, and then also we looked at some of other different things about how we can maybe speak to the coaches about anxiety, because anxiety seemed to be one of the things that was flagging up from the coaches, and then speaking to the child protection officer there. But also we had a look at self-harm, body image and confidence, because in a ladies football team that can have a relevance of that, so there is all different sides of it, which was really good, and we were ready to crack on and get on with it, but unfortunately the COVID virus took over, and that meant that the training wasn't allowed, really. It was stopped. But I'm pleased to say that all three football teams, and including Gary Grandison from Kelty Hearts, he's indicated that he'd like to get me up to Kelty as well, and then speak to their players. So everything's moving in the right direction, and I'm glad to see that other teams are wanting to do this, and they're open to it, which is great. And I'm hoping as well that the video that we did was through the suicide prevention campaign opens it up and try and bring a wee bit normality, try and normalise it a wee bit. We have these sporting personalities, local sporting personalities and representatives of football clubs are showing that those clubs want to be inclusive as well, which is great. But the other side of the business as well is employment. So I've delivered the mental health first aid courses to other businesses. So these businesses are either private, public, or voluntary businesses that you work for. These are all different sectors. So then the courses that I've designed myself, these are included for senior managers, and supervisors. I've also delivered to apprentices and graduates. And it's all about the same thing. It's what is mental health. When you're dealing with apprentices and graduates, you tend to think more of how you can relate to them, and alcohol and drugs. And some of the stuff I've done, including the drugs, has been great. Because one of the activities I do is I'll name a specific drug, and then it's up to the participants to come back and tell me what their nicknames are, and then it's what the risks are, and what's a good thing, what's a bad thing, and it's really, really good, and it shows you that you're open to it and you want to have that conversation, but you're not preaching. And I think that's really important. You're showing a level of understanding there, which I think is which is great, and that's what you get the engagement and the interaction. So it's been really, really good. But I think it's what I think is important is when you're doing the mental health first aid, you're there. You're there to make sure that you want to preserve life.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is you want to help prevent a mental health problem turning in, or a crisis developing into a more serious state. You're there to promote the recovery of good mental health, provide comfort to a person who is experiencing distress. Also, one of the important things, and one of the things you get taught on the course, is about suicide. Because suicide, even the word suicide, can mean a lot of dark things to other people, but it is a word there that has to get used. And the more you talk about it, the more, I'm going to say, normalised or normal it can be, because that's what we want to do. What a great taboo, you might want to take that away, take that stigma away from that. So you want to provide additional help. And you want to promote an understanding of mental health issues. But most importantly, you're there and you're equipped with the skills to ask someone if they're actually thinking about ending it, if they're actually thinking about taking their own life, if they want to die by suicide, which isn't a really good conversation to have with somebody, but it's a very important conversation. And one of the activities we do is, you get like two people, one person is the person who is feeling suicide, the other person is as a listener, and then you change. But it's actually, you think to yourself, I think I could do that. It's not until the actual words roll off your tongue that you realise how difficult it is. But once you've done it, then you've got the confidence to ask the question, which is really, really important.
Yeah.
Mental health problems they're very common. 1 in 4 people, or it's going to change to 1 in 3, experience mental health problems. So that means that everybody around us will maybe know someone or experience someone within our family and friends who are maybe going through or have had mental health problems. Depression is very common. Currently there's 1 in 20 people in Scotland have depression. Another stat as well, around 80% of mental health problems are either anxiety and depression, but you can get a dual diagnosis as well of having anxiety and depression, or depression and anxiety. Most people know very little about mental health, so I think that's really important that message can get delivered. And having people in the community and the workplaces who are comfortable talking about mental health issues, we can offer kindness and support, but also give information, and then receiving that helps give the best possible chance of recovery for people who are going through some problems with their mental health.
Brilliant, Eddie. That's all excellent. I know from certainly I'm going to mention my stepdad here, because he's never had mental health issues. I think he's had like a pretty decent life or whatever, or he's never been surrounded by them issues. And I just don't think he's one of these people. And I think it's fair to say people that haven't had mental health, they find it hard to grasp the likes of, or maybe they find it difficult to grasp depression because they've never had it themselves. Basically, am I right? Am I right in saying that? Do you think?
Yeah, yep, definitely. Because again, you did mention stepdad there, so it could be a generation gap.
Yeah.
You know, and it could be a thing that's, and I've heard it plenty. You never had that in my day.
Yeah.
You know, that was the thing, and then it's like the old adage as well, as we were saying, man up, and the other one is a grow a set. You know what I mean? It's these things, and language is very important, and you've got to make sure that you use the correct language. I think that's really important, and it's all about education. Education is paramount, because I don't know, but and a generation ago, would we be talking freely about it? Would we be doing podcasts talking about it? You know, would it be involved in football? And it's like depression. Why is he depressed? How can he be depressed? He's earning X amount a week. He's got a big flash car. He's got a most gorgeous girlfriend or wife. He's got a house. You know, he's no money worries. How can he be depressed?
Yeah.
So that's when it has to get brought in that as an actual illness. And one of the best things I heard about it, and from a footballing sense, is when a player has depression, what they've got to do is treat it like an injury. Because if they have an injury, there's going to be a recovery period. So there will be a recovery period from depression, and then from that, through the support or medication or whatever they need, then they'll get back to being there, back to playing at a level that they're used to.
Brilliant, mate, brilliant. And where can, if there is other sort of people interested, or clubs, or sort of employers, where can they find MindFit?
I have my own Facebook page, MindFit Mental Health Training, and also I have my own Twitter account I've just started. That's at Eddie 2020, and that'll bring up the MindFit Mental Health Training. Be able to get in contact with me that way. Hopefully I'll be able to build a website and get the website up and running as well.
Brilliant, Eddie, brilliant, and it's obviously good to hear that you're obviously getting into other clubs, Hillfield Swifts and Kelly Hearts, and obviously you're already at Dunfermline. But in terms of other sort of places, there might be some people that are listening to this that they perhaps might be struggling with, with something mental health wise. What else is out there in terms of where they can go and get help?
Yeah, there's loads of brilliant networks locally, especially for young people. I think Penumbra is a brilliant. It's a not-for-profit charity, but they do a lot of great work in local communities. They do a lot of work for people who are maybe having suicidal thoughts or self-harming and stuff like that. They're really good. We've got Breathing Space as well. It's a telephone line from the NHS, which is great. I love to promote the Samaritans. I think the Samaritans they do a great job as well. They've got an absolutely brilliant listening service that they can do. But there's also websites as well. Go to the NHS website. That'd be able to help you. So there is definitely help out there, and then not so much as well. I like to promote the citizens' advice as well, because when people are just before they're experiencing mental health issues, they could have financial worries, they could have relationship worries. So there's all different things, employment. So the citizens' advice bureau, they'll be able to help as well. So that's another good one to say.
Brian, I'll leave for people listening, I'll leave all the links within the sort of description of the podcast, just in case there is. I mean, it's unprecedented times, as we've mentioned, Eddie. Obviously, a lot of people, everyone's going through the same thing in terms of COVID, and obviously, a lot of people are missing football. I think it's had an impact on the fans not being able to go and see their team on a Saturday. But no, this is why we're having these sort of conversations like yourself, Eddie, and the work you do is absolutely fantastic. And I think you're right in a lot of sense. I think when we mention the word suicide, I actually kind of get a wee bit. I don't know I got a bad feeling about it. It's a horrible word, but I think the more you talk about it, the more it doesn't become a stigma in terms of what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about. The most important thing is being able to talk about it, and that's what I'm trying to promote, and especially in the football teams, because that is the highest risk factor as young men. and that is it. Just to show that there is a scope there. You know, if the football club wants to become open and stuff like that, then I'm definitely there to help if they want that. So no, it's great, and I feel like it's a real energizer for myself. I do get a bit of a buzz out of it, knowing that I get a reward when I've helped people, but also helping other people. It's like a domino effect. So I know that I know the work that's happening there is working in a football club. A football club is seen to be a pivotal part of our community. So then, you know, if it branches out into the community as well, then you're only doing nothing but good work, definitely.
It was fantastic chatting to you. As I mentioned, obviously, the importance of mental health and promoting it for anyone that needs help. And I sort of share similar views. If we can, even as a catch-up, just getting involved. If someone saw that and they wanted to reach out and got the help, that means a lot. That means a lot. And I think similar to yourself, I might not know. I think this is the issue sometimes is you might not know if people are struggling because they're not coming out and saying it. But even if they want to do it, just by going to the NHS, speaking to the Samaritans, doing all these things, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think what's really important is that that invitation is there for people. You've opened the door for people to come and talk, whereas they might have been a bit reluctant, or they wouldn't have known where to go or who to turn to, which is really important as well. And that's what it's all about. It's all about trying to help each other. And that was one of the things I said in one of the training sessions I did with the Keith and Swifts, was that you look after each other on the football field for 90 minutes. Once that 90 minutes is over, you should be looking after each other all the time and have that message with you at all times. And that will help.
Brilliant, Eddie. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Obviously, I'm hoping COVID might sort of die down. I'm not 100% sure on that, but hopefully you can obviously continue your great work with the football clubs when we're a wee bit clearer, or in the clear rather. Absolute pleasure speaking to you and promoting mental health and having you on the show, mate.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure for myself as well. I really enjoy it, as you can probably tell. Once you get me started, it takes a lot to get me stopped. But it's one of these subjects that, and one of the training sessions as well that I do with, and the feedback I've had is, when you come on this, it's not like it is a dry subject, but it's not like one of these things where it's going to be monotoned or anything like that. The good feedback I've had, that people didn't understand it could be fun, learning about it as well. So you've got to have some fun and some engagement along the way, and I've really enjoyed following your Twitter as well, and finding out what's happening in the non-leagues and stuff like that. No, it's great. It's brilliant. So you keep up the good work as well.
Cheers, Eddie. Thank you.